How much male pattern baldness should someone have generally experienced before you would suggest hair transplantation as an option? And this kind of goes into another question that I had, which was, what's the earliest age as well that you think it's reasonable for someone to have a hair transplant? Because I know I started losing my hair around, gosh, like 19, 20, something like that. So quite young, and I have people that comment on my videos that say, hey, I'm 20 years old, I'm 21 years old, I'm starting to lose my hair. And so, yeah, I mean, how old should someone generally be?
Well, I think that brings me back to one of the stories that I always think about when I was actually in my training in my fellowship program for doing a hair transplant. And it brings up a great case. He was a young man who was 15, 16 years old. And at that point was already a class 4, meaning he had such profound hair loss, and he was starting to withdraw from activities. His parents were becoming very concerned about X, Y, and Z. He was refusing to go to school. It was really, really profoundly affecting him on an emotional standpoint. The advantage is this young man had super strong donor hair, and we sat down with the parents and explained the pros and cons, and recommended that it probably is a good idea to do something to prevent future loss. And we ended up doing a pretty large procedure on this young man and filled him front to back, and it was a night and day difference for this young kid, and it changed his life. And he ended up going, that following year, sent us photos because he had gone to his high school prom, and he looked great. He looked great. So I think I've learned that over the years, there used to be this hard, distinct line that you wouldn't do a case under a certain, and I think it really comes down to what the circumstances and the situation is. Generally speaking, though, I think most of my patients, we're looking at early 20s as the early part when you would consider this. It's not very often you see kids that are that young, is that serious. Occasionally you do, and you have to work with that and talk about long-term use of finasteride to help protect their hair, etc. But I think that's more the exception, not the rule. But the opposite extreme, I've worked on 90-year-old men that want more hair, and they're healthy and they're strong and they want more hair, and they got good hair, and it's okay. They have reasonable expectations. But I think it's very individualized, and I think a lot of it comes down to how the patients feel about their own scenario. I mean, are they crying themselves to sleep at night? And there's some people that do. They just are so upset about the scenario. You got to weigh the pros and the cons, versus the age, because it's an ongoing process, and they have to be aware of that. And I think that's key.